No, we're not performing surgery.
Hi, friends. How are you? Welcome to our weekly episode of Ask Me Anything. So we're going to do something a little bit different today. Every week we go live, but today for Ask Me Anything, I have a special guest. Her name is Paige. I'm having a hard time with this. Her name is Paige. Jake, can I get another one?
Yeah.
Her name is Paige, and she is our content. Dun, 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 dun. Whoa, Paige, I think you just said we're trying to get our social distancing together. Yo, so every week I go live, and Paige usually helps me online. Today she had to pass by, drop a couple of things off for business, so she's going to be joining us. So leave your questions here so Paige can ask me. Okay, so I think I'm doing it wrong. I don't think you're supposed to be switching masks, but we're here. Okay, let's dive in. We're going to do a little bit of our shout outs. I always feel like this is a hot mess. So whenever Paige asks me a question, I'm going to bring her on camera. But we're going to start with the most popular question from Carly. She says, I'm authentic in real life. How do I transfer this into social media posts so that it reflects my brand? Any rules or tips? Okay, so I have a firm belief that we want to make sure that the content we are producing makes a lot of sense. And so my advice is to write like you're writing to a friend. So I write blog posts like I'm writing a letter to a friend. I'm keeping it light. I'm keeping it conversational. Whenever I have a post on social media, I write that the way that I would like to write a short email. And as a general rule of thumb or a piece of advice, when it comes to writing text on stories, I use stories like the same way that I would write a text message. So that would be a general rule of thumb, because people say, well, I am like likable and fun in person, but I have a hard time writing that way. So my advice is literally social media has changed the game. Whatever grammar rules that you used growing up as a kid, they're important, but they don't make or break your success when it comes to being successful on social media. Get your point across and showcase your personality. Paige, do we have any questions yet?
We have one about social curator opening.
Okay, so Paige, ask the question.
My favorite. Question.
I always avoid this question. So Paige will send me questions like, Paige, I'm not answering that question. So what is the question, Paige?
Okay, so Ben Bellamy says, when are you reopening social curator?
Yo, I don't talk about, thank you so much. I don't talk about opening social curator because people say, Jasmine's always trying to pitch or Jasmine's always trying to sell. Listen, we're keeping it super quiet. We're keeping it behind the scenes. We don't open very often. And so I don't like to say when it's going to be because I want to make sure that we're taking care of our current members, making sure that they're well on their way to success. But between us, Bill, we hope it's sometime before the end of 2020. Just going to put that one out there. So leave your questions because Paige is asking them. Y'all, we're making this interactive. Okay. Marty asks, if we have a blog and a podcast, should we blog be the same topic as the podcast? And should we embed the podcast audio in the blog post? So for those of you guys who are familiar, I am the host of the Jasmine Star Show. And what you're looking at right now is a screen grab from the JasmineStarShow.com. That is the website for the podcast. So if you go here, what I want you to notice is that if you scroll down, what you're looking at right now are samples of what look like, wait for it, yes, blog posts. So let's just click into one, the most recent one, would be how to do a social media self-audit. So just like Marty had asked, I embed the audio file, but then there's also text that is added to the blog post because we want to make sure that SEO, search engine optimization, if somebody is searching for how to do a social media audit, if I just put the audio in the blog, Google would not be able to search for it. So we have to write words so that Google can read it and then say, oh, if you're looking for a social media audit, this is the blog post that you should write. Okay, let's bring this back to Paige. Any questions?
Okay, we got a few more. One's funny that I want to start with.
Okay, hold on. JD's making a lot of noise right now. Y'all, I don't even know. This feels like a hot mess. This feels like a hot mess. Facebook. You guys, this feels just so messy. This just feels like welcome to the hot mess coffee shop. Okay, so Paige, what's the question?
Okay, so our funny one is, Laura asked, why are we wearing masks?
So Laura says, why are we wearing masks? Because here, okay, this is another thing. People think it's like really weird. Out in California, COVID is like, it's like a real thing. And so we want to make sure that the message we're putting out is very clear. social distancing, at least here in Orange County, which has the highest amount of COVID cases, or like up near the top. We're the top 5 counties in California with COVID. If we are going to be together within 6 feet apart, we want to make sure we're being responsible. And I've also made the commitment to our social worker. We're in the adoption process. I want to make sure that when people come over, we're following the rules. That's why we're wearing masks. So there's that.
Okay, we got another one from Veronica. Any suggestions to get out of my funk?
Oh, Veronica, I'm sorry that you're in a funk, but let's have a conversation about what I do. I don't think it's right. I don't think that anything is right or wrong, but I have noticed that if I'm in a funk, it's going to be really important for me to take action, to do something that is going to get me closer, even if it's the wrong action. I've noticed that my funk elongates when I just sit and I don't do anything at all. So I am wishing you love and health and lots of light. And then for you to make a list of 3 things that you can do today, even if you don't feel like it, just 3 things that you could test that can maybe push you closer to where you want to be. Let's get into the next question. Maggie says, if I am the only employee of my brand account and we write in third person in our feed, should we respond to comments as we or I, even though others know it's just me? And that was upvoted. That had a lot of conversations in it, and people were saying, I feel the same way. So the good news is there's, again, not a right or wrong. So if you have a business and you're writing, we do this and we do that, that's because at some point in the future, you're planning on hiring people. And you want to make sure that you don't have to change any of your marketing collateral. And so you're saying we now because we is coming in the future. I can say that I chose to keep my business I. I only ever wrote an I. But now, since starting Social Curator, a lot of the emails I send from Social Curator say we. But if I am sending an email from Jasmine Star, like the Jasmine Star business, I say I. There's not a right or wrong. It's just whatever you're comfortable with. Okay, I want to make sure that just in case we needed a point, there you go. This is what we're walking away with. There is not a right or wrong. Okay, Paige.
Got it. Do you feel like you have to like yell while you're
I feel like I'm yelling. I feel like I'm yelling. I'm not yelling. I'm passionate. I'm passionate.
Okay. Paula says, can you give us tips for being natural as a podcast guest?
This goes back to what we just, so this question, I actually like how these are in alignment. This question was, how do I transfer being authentic? And then I said to write like you're writing to a friend. And then what we're talking about in this question is, how do I show up and be comfortable on a podcast? And I view every single podcast host like I'm talking to a friend. But I'm talking to a friend with the objective of everything I say, it needs to help you. Every time you're on a podcast, I want you to ask yourself, is this answer going to help somebody? Because if you end up helping somebody, you will have no shortage of being welcomed back as a podcast guest for other podcasts. Okay, we're gonna get into more of your live Q&A. I'm dying with this mask. It just is what it is. Mercedes said, what is the best way to collaborate with other women to grow your Instagram account? I feel since my account is so small, they would rather do collaborations with bigger accounts. And Mercedes and anybody else who feels the same way, that's probably the case. There are very big accounts that don't want to do collaborations with small accounts. But one thing I want to break down from a business perspective is there are 2 types of collaborations. There are horizontal collaborations and vertical collaborations. And I want you, Mercedes, and anybody else watching to choose one. So what is a horizontal collaboration? This is a horizontal collaboration. This is a vertical collaboration, which means, Mercedes, you want to do a vertical collaboration. Somebody with a bigger account is going to be collaborating with you down here. The vertical collaborations are very unlikely. They're very rare. But horizontal collaborations, these are much more likely. And that's what I want you, Mercedes, to start with. A horizontal collaboration means that people with accounts of about the same size, and people with social followings of the same size, and people with newsletters around the same size, they're going to be more likely to do a collaboration. Now, you might say, but Jasmine, why would I do a collaboration with somebody else who has 500 followers when I have 500 followers? Because those 500 followers are different than your 500 followers. So it makes sense for you to go and create content for that other collaborator and that collaborator to make content for your audience so that you can get exposure to both of these audiences. I think horizontal collaborations are the way of the future, and I encourage people to totally dive right in. Okay, Paige, let's get into more questions.
Okay. Stephanie asks, I feel like I'm all over the place with doing all the things. I just can't. Do you recommend a newsletter over a blog post? Are they the same? I'm a travel agent.
Okay, so what's her name?
Stephanie.
Stephanie, thank you for being here. And that feeling of doing all the things is very normal. Every business owner feels that they're not doing enough. And so first and foremost, I just want you to give yourself grace, and then I want you to choose one thing. I want you, if you are going to do a blog post is normally a little bit longer than a newsletter. So if you're going to write a blog post, what would it look like for you to take pieces of the blog post and incorporate it into a newsletter? I am a big fan of working smarter and not harder. So let me walk you through a little bit of an example, and shout out to Paige, because Paige helps me with this. We do this Facebook Live, and today she happens to be here together. And what she'll do after is she'll take notes and say, okay, what did Jasmine talk about? And then she'll download this video from Facebook and she'll upload it to YouTube. And then of the questions that people were more interested about, like what they wanted to see the most, she will then start getting ideas of proposing, hey, Jasmine, maybe we should write a blog post about this. Maybe we should write a blog post about that. If we write a blog post and it's very interesting, there's a good chance that I could use some of the blog post content into a newsletter. So what did we just do? We got one piece of content that I'm here creating, and then the vision becomes, can we create a system or a stream around that? So, Stephanie, I hope that helps.
Okay, next question. Elena asks, how do you put the screenshot slides up in your live video here?
Okay, so I use Wirecast. It's not an ad. You can also use BeLive or Ecamm.
Chelsea asks, what are some good ways to create content for my blog and social media while I'm not booking anything? I don't want to look like I'm not doing anything.
Okay, so one thing that I think is like super, super, super good is for you to give the permission that even if you're not doing anything right now, like the vast majority of the world is not. Like people aren't traveling in the same way. People aren't going into work in the same way. People aren't going to dinner or going out with friends in the same way. It's okay if life looks different. You want to give yourself the permission to explore what does your business look like right now. And so if you're looking for content ideas, I always suggest what I call a brain dump. What does this actually mean? You sit down with a piece of paper and you just write down everything that you think you could possibly talk about. And then of all the things that you wrote down, what I want you to do is circle the ones that you think your dream customer wants to see, hear, or know more about. And then you rank them in the order of popularity. So one big brain dump, and then you circle the ones that your dream customer wants to see, and then you get those and you put them in order of what you think would do well or be the most popular online. Okay, we're going into, I think we have 2 more questions.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Maria asks, how can I keep motivated when my content isn't getting likes?
Okay, so I always think that social media and posting on social media is exactly like going to the gym. Like social media is going to the gym, 100%. And so what people want, if they go to the gym and they're at the gym for 2 months and then they tell their trainer, like, I don't have a 6-pack, or I don't, my booty's not what I wanted, or I haven't lost 15 pounds yet. That's because it takes time. Transformation takes time. And so if you're here and you're like, Jasmine, I've been doing this too long and nobody's engaging, then the first thing to think about is there anything that you could do to change the way that your content is being presented? Are you showcasing captivating lifestyle images? Are you having a really engaging post? Are you giving a way to people talk back to you? And if you say yes, 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 then the next thing is just like, hey, you got to keep on showing up to the gym. To get the results that you want, you have to take personal accountability to show up every single day. All right, last question. It better be a good one.
Oh boy, no pressure, no pressure. Okay, Leanne asks, can I have 2 focuses on Instagram? I am fully into mindset and health with my business, but I'm branching out to offering coaching and intuitive manifesting courses.
So this is a good question. What's her name?
Leanne.
Leanne. This is actually a great conversation because I always recommend that if you are serving the same customer, that it is okay to have a multitude of things on your account. And it sounds like you're doing health and wellness and intuition, and then you want to have courses about intuition and manifesting. If you think that your customer would buy the course, and you also think that they would buy or want to hear more information about health and wellness and intuition, then that's great. Your account can talk about two separate things, but your end user is the same. Now, if you wanted to talk about health and intuition, and then you also said, I want to do horseback riding, well, the end viewer are different. That's when I say it's probably best to have two separate accounts. Okay, y'all, this is our very first Facebook Live ever with a guest. So, shout out for Paige. If you guys see her in future chats, you'll know that she's sitting behind the screen. Today, she happened to come by just with a regular conversation to drop something off for work. And I said, let's keep our masks on. Let's keep chatting. And I hope that this conversation was good for y'all as was for me. Paige is a content creator at Social Curator, and she's the backbone of what we do. So all the good stuff that is appearing on social, she's had her hand as a piece of it. So y'all have a really great day. I'll see you guys next week at our regular Ask Me Anything. Bye, y'all.